welcome to Ninetale's Hobbies, very first proper painting video of the series Noob for the Noob God. This is a technique that I accidentally stumbled across, and by accidentally stumbled across, I mean I was trying to figure out how to do non-metallic metal copper. Failed really bad at it and kept trying, but ended up coming up with this really cool weathered copper look. And I had a couple people on some forums that I post on ask how I did it and everything, so I thought I would do a kind of a step-by-step on my technique of how I did this, what I came up with. And it's super simple, very quick. It only takes 15-20 minutes at the most, so let's give it a try. So after looking at a myriad of other people's tutorials, these are the inks that I came up with, the paints that I came up with. And you can find your own little solutions and everything, and I'll talk about alternatives. But this is my palette, pre-mixed some, and the blob at the bottom is my matte black glaze. So first off, we're going to start with matte black. This is to do a very thin coat. Everything is very, very thin when we're doing this. And just work it on. You don't have to worry about being terribly precise at this. And we just lay this down, so if you need to come back and touch anything up afterwards, you'll have the exact color that you're using. And you don't have to use Army Painter, you can use any dark black. I tried something a little more gray and it worked, I didn't like it as much. Kind of gave it more of a washed out look, a little less crisp. And again, I'll put the descriptions for the other tutorials for the non-metallic metal copper down in the descriptions. Some Trovarion, Venturella, a couple other people that I saw. Darren Latham has a great one. I don't know if it's still out because his channel recently got shut down. But yeah, then we're going to mix the matte black and the leather brown together. Originally I did the leather as a fur brown, but it was a little too red. You want something that's just got a hint in it that kind of leans in that direction. And again, this is a real thin coat. It's about a 50-50 mix. You can kind of mess around with it and see sometimes a little more brown works, and the matte black layer is still fairly wet when I'm working this in. And this tutorial is just going to show the back. I also did the front at the same time, but I didn't want you to have to suffer through me doing the entire thing, but I'll show you what it looks like at the end. And don't want to go completely up to the edge, you want to leave a little bit of black showing. It's just some layering techniques, fairly simple layering techniques. Then we go straight to the straight leather brown. Again, not going all the way up to the edge like we were with the past layer. It's a little bit further down. Super thin layers. And it's fine if the paint from the previous layer is still wet. This is a little bit of layering, a little bit of wet blending. At least that I understand it. And usually you want to wait, if you're layering, for each of your previous layers to dry, but the way have been figuring out this technique is it actually works pretty well if it's the previous layer is still a little wet. And you can see right here, usually if your layer's halfway dry and you'll pull paint, and that's what happens in this corner, but it actually ends up working out pretty well. Yeah, so the leather brown and desert yellow. The desert yellow is just kind of a mustardy, sandy yellow. I use it in a lot of mixtures though. This actually makes a very nice combination of Citadel's old snakebite leather, which you can only buy as a contrast paint now. Actually, sorry, that's with oak brown instead of leather brown. Yeah, again, nice thin coats, not building all the way up. This is a bit more just kind of tapping it in place, and this is going to be a first like real highlight. The other ones were more of a base color and shades. The matte black glaze, you can use water. I use the Vallejo airbrush flow improver on about a 5:1 ratio. You just want it nice, super thin, and this is just to kind of bring all of the previous layers together in a more cohesive piece. And I'm doing more on the colors, or the parts where it's going to be a bit darker in the shadows and everything, because I'm doing a light source from below. Starting to look like something. Then we go to the straight desert yellow. Again, that kind of sandy, almost mustardy kind of color. And this is just going to be the highest of highlights. This is going to be actually the highest that we go on the copper itself. Just bits and pieces here. You don't want a whole lot of it. See, at some points I just kind of tap it in. It's almost texturing to a certain extent. And then yeah, at this point I also go in and start working on this symbol on the back and just do the same steps. And the reason why I saved it is because I wanted to differentiate the layer so it'd kind of stand out more, so I wasn't painting it at the same time, so I'd be in a slightly different headspace. And I just kind of slapped on all the previous layers real quick. Didn't worry about the first glaze on it though. We do army green. This is any type of muted fatigue kind of color green. And again, super thin layers, super thin paint on your brush, and this is just almost stippling. You just want to do small little kind of blobs and bits and pieces here and there. And you know, pull up some photo reference material of worn copper and you'll see the greens and the blues in it and everything. So add as much or as little as you want. There's no real right or wrong area or anything to put it in, just whatever's aesthetically pleasing to you. Electric blue. This is just anything that's got a pretty high value point. You know, one of your lighter blues. And this is just going over where the greens are, not covering the green up, but just kind of adding to just little bits and pieces here and there. But wherever you put green, put this in. It's just like how you did the layering levels. Don't cover it up, go right over to the edge of your last color. And it may not show up at first, but once it dries, you'll definitely start seeing it. Gonna go back to the matte black glaze. Again, this is just kind of pull everything together. You can look at my thumb and see how thin that paint is. And whenever you're glazing, whenever you get that on your brush, take it, put it on your paper towel and roll it and get some of that excess moisture off. It'll help you make sure that it's thin and you're not going to over cover anything. And this is, I'm just kind of going over the spots that I want to be the darkest. You know, it's pulling everything together, but I'm also able to add up to my shadows. You can see a little bit of the chest there that I've been working on. And we're going to go back with Army Green. A lot of this painting is just kind of working back and forth. Of course, that's a lot of any of the painting, and the more layers, the more back and forth you do, the better it's going to look. But with this, I think once, maybe twice is plenty. And kind of go back where the green was before. Very thin layers. Almost a glaze, not quite. And just filling those back in, and then electric blue, round 2. Yep. Doing the exact same thing. Wherever we just did the green, we're going back, doing the blue, just tiny little spots. It's just gonna make it stand out. Building up that weathered effect. And really, yeah, like, you can just see how well that's sitting. And then the skeleton bone, this is just going to be a really small edge highlight to help separate all those different layers. And as you can see here, I still have a lot to work on with my edge highlighting. I don't know if I had too much paint on my brush or if my brush wasn't thin enough. And I didn't film this part, but I went back with the thinnest brush I had, got some of that matte black and just ran it right over the top where there was a small little separation. Cleaned it up, no problem. Do a little bit on the symbol on the back to help separate it off the back. I also left the center of the symbol solid black just to help draw the eye towards that area. And the front was done exactly the same as the back, same process. And yeah, that's it. That's the entire process. The more you do it, the quicker you can get it done. Super simple. I think it looks pretty good. Thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate you all. And see you on the next video.